Okay, good morning, good morning. Welcome everybody to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm Samantha Studebaker-Carl here with my good friends Sandy, Catherine, Jason, Dan Smith, and Dan Sissick. It's possible that we may have Danielle jumping on and Julia Kalan as well. So guys, for what we're going to talk about today is 9 situations or 9 different events or whatever in your life where you can use self-talk to solve your problems. So what we're going to do here is we actually get together. Let me just kind of start over. I'm like going way ahead of myself. Before we get started with this, I want everybody to have a chance to introduce themselves. And for those of you who are watching, if you'd like to add to the conversation, jump over to SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. That's our live event page. And just give us a shout out and let us know where you are in the world. And then at any point while we go through this discussion, share your thoughts on the page, and we'll just kind of discuss it back and forth. Okay, so let's go ahead and introduce ourselves, guys. Who wants to jump out first?
Yeah, I'll jump out. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Smith. I come from Boise, Idaho. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day, so welcome to the call. I'm glad you're here.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Roberts from St. Petersburg, Florida, and I'm very happy to be here today and happy to see you all here too. I wanted to welcome Dan Sissick. Great to have you on the panel this morning. Hi Sandy. Yeah, so happy to see everybody out here and looking forward to hearing all the comments too.
Good morning, Sandy Root here in Miami Beach, Florida. Still waking up a little bit here, but yeah, good to have you on the panel, Dan Sissick. Good to see you and looking forward to the discussion as always.
Okay, I will introduce myself. I'm Dan Sissick. I am from Las Vegas, Nevada. I've lived here over 40 years, and I've been involved with what I'm doing for a little over 3 years, and came across this group because of just doing some looking around and trying to find a good mastermind group. I've been a part of a couple, but I need one that worked with my schedule, and found you guys and just absolutely fell in love with what you guys shared and talked about, and how open and genuine I really felt you guys all were, and that really kept me coming back and wanting to interact and put my 2 cents worth in whenever you guys talked about things. So appreciate the invite and glad to be here.
And we are glad to have you here, Dan. Thank you so much for joining our community and being here with us on the panel today. I'm Catherine Clement, and I'm from beautiful Boulder, Colorado. And we got a lot to talk about today, so we better get on it.
Yes, we do. This is a very full chapter, and but yeah, thank you, Dan. We're glad to have you, and and this is one thing I forget to mention a lot of the times is that if you're part of our community, which if you're watching this, you're part of the community, which is Mindset Mastery Collective, and we get together every week so that we can discuss personal development topics. And one thing that I tend to forget to mention is that if you would like to participate with us live on this hangout, I want to bring everybody out at some point in time. I mean, if you want to participate, all you got to do is send me a message and say, hey, I'd like to jump on there with you live too. And then we'll just bring out different guests from the community each week, and that way everybody has a chance to share their thoughts and opinions live with us. And sometimes I know it's easier for me to express myself verbally than it is in the written word. So we want to be sure and invite folks out to come out and play with us, right? Mastermind with us. And I just wanted to say thank you again, Dan, for sharing your thoughts on why you're participating with us, because I mean that's the biggest thing right there. That's why I brought us all together, is so that we can all learn and grow together in this mastermind. Okay, so let me just jump over the page and welcome everybody who's hanging out with us. So we've got Karen. Welcome, Karen. Welcome, BG, Brenda. Welcome, welcome. I think everybody else has introduced themselves, and this is going to be recorded, Sandy Kirkland, so if you didn't make it, that's okay. It'll be on this page. Sandy Johnson, give a shout out to you as well. I know you're not here this morning. You're out with your kids at a softball Special Olympics event. Good luck to them. Glad that they're able to participate in that. It's been a lot of fun for you, I imagine. Okay, so let's jump into it. What we've been doing just for the past few weeks is we're actually studying the book What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. We're on chapter 15, and of course this one talks about specific life circumstances where you can use self-talk. And so what I want to do today is, since there are so many different examples in this chapter, is I just want to start, and we'll just kind of go through each one, and we'll start with the first one, and after we kind of just mention that first one, then two people can jump out, share their thoughts on it, and then we'll go to the next one, and then two people can jump out and share their thoughts on it, and then we'll just go through each one, and then at the end, if you have additional thoughts or somebody else has a thought on a previous one that we talked about, then we can share additional thoughts there at the end. But I want to make sure that we cover all of these, because I think that this particular hangout is really, really important for a lot of people to fully understand how it is you can use self-talk, positive self-talk, to solve your problems. Okay, so and of course in the beginning here it talks about when you begin to use self-talk, the more that you use it, the more that it's actually going to be helpful, and the more that you will kind of get in the habit of using it as well. So this first one talks about putting self-talk into practice. It says if you're in management, you can be a graduate student of management or never attain the essential skills of managing others if you do not first master the management of yourself. So it talks about mastering yourself so that you can manage others. Who wants to jump out and share their thoughts on self-talk and managing yourself and managing others?
I'll jump out here real quick. It's become real apparent to me recently about how we need to start with being able to manage ourselves and take responsibility for ourselves. And I think a lot of times we end up doing that when it's actually the responsibility is put on us. But how often do we do that when we're not forced to do it? Like every single moment of the day. And I think this book it's really helping me a lot to go to kind of pull things into alignment and learn how to be responsible with my thoughts. And I'm finding that is really laying down like a whole new foundation, a whole new, more concrete foundation for new achievements, new ways of doing things. And so that's one thing I'm getting out of it. Who else has something to say on it?
Yeah, I'll jump out. One of the things that Napoleon Hill writes a lot about is initiative, taking the initiative, and self-reliance. And I know I grew up with really lazy attitudes as a child, and I kind of figured out that if I was given a task to do, if I whined and cried enough, that maybe somebody else would come do it for me, But I figured out as an adult that really don't work very well, And when I was running my painting company, and I did work for builders, they didn't much give a rat's rear end whether I whined and cried or not. It's like, hey, Bubba, either get the job done or you're not going to get paid, and if you don't want to do it, I'll find somebody else to do it. And that really drove me to take initiative, to step out and do things that, like in the beginning when I first started my painting company, it's kind of blunt, but I had diarrhea for a year because my stomach was in a constant state of being upset because I was scared. I was flat scared half to death for the first year, and then after a full year came and went, I kind of looked back over my shoulder and said, hey, wow, a year's come and gone, and I'm still here and I'm still standing, and after that it got easier and easier and easier, and then over the period of time I moved it to subconscious mind where I could practically sleep and do what I needed to do because it took no thought anymore, But in the beginning, until I learned how to control myself, control my attitudes and the actions that I took, and to stay there and work and get the job done, whether I felt like it or not, whether I felt like I got hit by a truck, and or whatever, the builders didn't care. they only wanted their house painted, and so I had to learn how to control myself. And then over the years, I had hundreds of employees over the years, but I couldn't control my employees until I had the capability of controlling myself. So anyway, I'll let somebody else comment.
I'll jump out for a quick second if it's okay. I myself right now am in a management position. I do have a couple people that I have to manage, so I have to learn how to walk that line of how I say and do things with them, and how I respond to them, and how when they say things or do things back at me, I've got to sometimes stop myself and think how to say it in an appropriate way to help them understand I'm not coming at them, or that I'm attacking them, but I still need them to understand and know either they're doing this wrong, or this needs to be done, or that needs to be done. And it really gets to be hard sometimes, especially when you have some people that are so set in how they are, and their thought processes are so here, that I've actually had to learn how to think excuse me, rethink how I approach her whenever I do something with her, because she's been there longer than me, she's older than me, and yet I'm more her superior and have to tell her, but yet she's very, so I've learned, how I've had to learn how to use self-talk in myself to come back and appropriate use with them, so that way I don't cause problems within the workplace and they can still get what I need done.
That's a great point, Dan. What I got out of that is the more you work on it for yourself, the more it seems to come out in your management skills. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm learning that, sometimes the things we say, and if we take that time to stop and really look at what we're saying and how, put ourselves in another person's shoe, if we were there, how it might come across. And in that sense, I've had to learn to really reframe and redo how I say some things, instead of just blurting it out or just saying, whatever. Because I've also got workplace rules. I've got place etiquette. I've got, how somebody might misconstrue something and take it, and then they could run to HR and say I did this or something. It's really, puts me in a situation where I've got to really, really think about situations sometimes and how I say it and how I go about it.
Those are some great points. I've always had a difficult time in the past, it seems, to to work with others that way in a management function, especially when you're trying to remain at a level of friendship. At least that's, I don't know. This, it seems like this material will certainly help out in that field. So who else wants to jump out?
Yeah, that's a great point, guys. Wonderful. Let's
Well,
let's
I would just like to say something. Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Julia. Good morning.
Hi. I want to touch on the management, because when I was working, for corporate America, I had a difficult time with management as far as what was expected of me, and so just to make a long story short, one-on-one with the person that, like with my manager, when it was best for both of us if we sit down one-on-one, even if it was once a month, and we would talk about what was done, what was expected of me, and so forth. And that changed the relationship from friendship to management. And I no longer looked at her as my friend. I looked at her as my boss. And it was a very different view. I looked at her differently, and therefore I got more done for her, because it was laid down what was expected of me. And it wasn't, and just the continuous communication, for both of us together, not assuming that because she's my manager, now I got to do this for her. It was just the way it was communicated and what was expected, and the one-on-one meetings, because that built the relationship between us. So that helped a lot.
That's great. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, cool. Cool. I think, I think
one more thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to thank you for the image on Facebook. That was so nice. I was reading it and I'm like, this sounds familiar. And then when I looked at the bottom, I saw my name.
Yeah, you can thank Brenda Jenkins. She's the one that created that image. She's been doing a lot of quote images for us, and she's pulled a number of different quotes from our Saturday Mastermind. So we appreciate BG very, very much for creating those, and it's wonderful. So awesome.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So let's jump to the next one. I think everybody added some really great comments for this particular one on the management, and of course, it's all about leading by example, right? Okay, so then this next one, it says if you want to earn more income and improve your financial stability, that's a way. This is one that you can use self-talk with, and it says our earning potential is individually determined by each of us. The limits of our income are set by our own internal beliefs. If you want to earn more, you have to start by seeing yourself as worthy, deserving, capable, and willing, and by redirecting yourself to do so. Then also it says, a lot of times what happens, it says we try to figure out how we can earn more money before we believe we are capable of doing it. I thought that was a really important statement there, and this happens a lot, I think, in the home business industry, is that, we want to earn more income, so we get in this business, but we really don't have that faith in ourselves to do it. And that's one of the biggest, probably the main reason that I started the Saturday Morning Mastermind and the Mindset Mastery Collective community, is because I saw that was a huge thing. People didn't believe in themselves, and personal development and self-talk are the key to that. So who wants to add their thoughts on this section? Jump on out.
Okay, this is Julia again. What I got from that was that I have to be where I would have to feel as if where I'm at in my future. What it would feel like to me, I have to be in it. I have not only just visualize it, I have to feel it, because that changes my whole perspective. It's almost like creating what they call a positive vibration. So I'm creating that for me. I'm being in it. I'm not only am I seeing it, I'm being in it, and therefore I don't know the right words. Therefore I'm creating it by engaging in it. I guess that's the right word. I guess. So I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. I'm just doing it because I'm in it, and therefore it creates what the energy that I need. I hope I'm saying that right.
Sure.
Sometimes it's hard to put it in words.
That's great. That's great, Julia. I connect with that. So many times when we're trying something new, we don't know what that experience is going to be like, and so I think our subconscious tries to connect it with other things that might have happened in our past, but there may not be an exact match. And so we really can't, when we're trying new things, we really can't, go by that. We need to do like what you're suggesting and step into it, engage ourselves, and then go from there. That's wonderful. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I'll hop on out. Sorry if you've seen me jumping over here. My cat is feisty this morning. She's like attacking me. Yeah, the self-talk with financial, improving financial stability is huge. I think a lot of times when I did start online marketing a few years ago, I became aware of so many limiting beliefs I had in my mind, that from my parents and stuff. And, I think a lot of us have those from, our parents and society. And when we can change those beliefs around and, talk to ourselves in a different way about what money is really and how we can have the income we desire, then the miraculous things start to happen. It just starts coming out of nowhere sometimes. And I like the point he made in the book here about talk to yourself about your self-worth, because that's where it really all begins, is with our own worth. We're not going to receive that improvement in our financial stability or more income if we don't see our own worth, because we attract what we are. So if we see ourselves as more worthy and we're talking to ourselves in that positive way, then everything changes around us, including the money that we can receive. And I was actually talking to a friend this morning. He had an opportunity to make some income by having an event at his space, and he was sort of like, well, you decide. Well, I didn't even think about really having people pay for it. I just was opening the space, and I'm like, you have an opportunity to receive, open to receiving. And I see him a lot like that, where he's not open to receiving when it's there. And I'm like, look, you have this opportunity to receive, and it's almost like he didn't feel worthy to receive the income for having people in his space. So I'm like, you have this opportunity to receive. So we have to see, I think that self-worth point is huge, that he makes in the book here, and it starts there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple different tape series. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. I mean, I know what it is. One of them is called Lead the Field, and the other one I can't remember what it's called. But anyways, dang, what's the guy's name? I know what it is. It'll come to me. Anyway, what he was talking about on this tape I was just listening to yesterday. I listen to tapes or whatever when I'm just having breakfast or whatever, and what he was talking about was that Nightingale, Earl Nightingale. I'm sorry, Earl Nightingale, Lead the Field, and what he's talking about was that people will want to change their outside circumstances, not knowing that they have to change their inside circumstances first. And kind of a mental image that popped into my mind is like my granddaughter is like 4 years old right now, and then I got a grandson that's just less than a 1 year old. And when you buy clothes for them, quite often you actually buy clothes that are a little bit too big, and then they get to grow into them. And the mental image that's what Earl Nightingale was talking about on that tape was that when we join like a home-based business and you have that lack of confidence, that question, gosh, can I do this? Is this really something that's possible for me? Do I have what it takes to do this? And then when you begin self programming, when you begin self-improvement and you work on yourself, it's like buying a coat that's too big for a young child, and the child has to have a chance to grow and grow up and then grow into that coat, and then the coat will fit. And then what Earl Nightingale was saying was that when you reach the point where you have grown to the point where you can command that blessing or command that amount of dollars or whatever it is. I mean, it's not just, success isn't just money. There's way more to life than just money. So it doesn't matter really what it is that your goal is, what you're going after. But when you reach the point mentally, emotionally, to the point where it's like you've grown into that coat, and now you can put that coat on and you can wear the coat and you can command. It has to flow to you. It's like you can't shut it off. Because you've outgrown, you're no longer what you was before. Now you've moved to a new space, and you have the capability, the mental capabilities to demand more, and it has to come to you. So I thought it was just really the word picture just really struck me yesterday.
Yeah, I love Earl Nightingale. He's got some awesome stuff. Dan, thanks for sharing that. Okay, so let's talk about the next section. It talks about if you raise children, teach them, or work with them in any way, that's a perfect opportunity for you to use self-talk and teach your kids to have positive self-talk. I want to share a little story. I was reading a book. I think that it's Wayne Dyer's memoirs. I've read a bunch of books from him, so he shares all kinds of stories, and I can't remember which one it was in that he shared this story, but he was talking about when he was young and he was in like I don't know, 3rd grade or 4th grade, something like that. And he had this one teacher who was getting really, really frustrated, and she was upset because the class just would not behave. And so she was using, or trying to use, guilt trips to control the children, right? Telling them how bad they are for misbehaving. And you know, and that, yet we can, you know, we've all experienced that in one way or another, where we had a teacher that was just mean, you know, or we felt like they were mean. And when you talk to kids in a negative way, of course, then they start to get that negative mindset, right? They get that negative thought in their head. They're bad because they're, you know, they're just excited little kids, right? And Wayne made a point. He said that you know, on the playground, a couple of the little girls were just crying and crying because their teacher had told them they were so bad, that they were bad, bad, bad for being, you know, disruptive in class. And he says, if someone told you you were a tree, would you be a tree? And of course she's like, well, no. And she's like, so he says, you know, just because a teacher says you're bad doesn't mean you're bad. And I thought that was a really good example to remember, is that, you know, this is how, you know, talking can affect us, is that the words that we use can actually, you know, hurt, and particularly with children. And so I just wanted to kind of help people out there, is that, like, if you people that are telling you there's something wrong with you, or you're bad, or you're not a good influence, or you're never going to be successful, or all those different things, you have to remember, you know, compare that to if that person told you you're a tree. Are you a tree? Heck no, you're not a tree. So I wanted to share that. But anyway, who else has some thoughts on self-talk and using it with your kids? I know Julia mentioned something last week about her daughter saying a statement about being worthy. Do you want to share that, Julia?
Yes. Can you hear me? Because I was getting a really bad connection. Yes. Last week I had mentioned that my little one and I, we went school shopping for her, and she was picking something out at the department store. It was a shirt. It was a nice shirt. And while she was grabbing it, I overheard her say, she said something to the terms, "I'm worthy to receive." And I can't remember, I can't quote her exactly, but I knew where she got it from, because she got it from me. When I get packages in the mail, I say, "I'm worthy to receive," because I order so much stuff online, I don't know what it is. So whatever it is, I'm worthy to receive it. So she got that from me, and I was like, oh, that's fantastic. I was like so happy. And that was the moment that I will not forget. And then she does it with money. When she every time we go out, she finds money, whether it be a quarter, a dime, a penny, and I don't find it. She's like, "Mom, look," and she'll point out, and so I got her saying, "I'm worthy to receive money." So everywhere we go, she finds money and she puts it away in her piggy bank. That's my story.
This reminded me. Well, let's see. I have a bunch of thoughts going through my head at the moment. I saw a video this week on Facebook. Maybe one of you posted it, or I don't know where it was, but it seemed to be being shared a lot, about a girl who was being bullied, and her father created a rap song for her, and they had all the kids out on the playground saying, "I'm worthy, I'm beautiful," and it was just so beautiful, because, you know, this creative way that he, you know, and he looked at his daughter and talked to her, looking at her in the eyes, like, "You're worthy and you're beautiful," and it was just so nice to see, you know, and everyone came together to help create this video. Like, tons of kids were in the videos with their "I'm beautiful" shirts on and "I'm worthy," and they, like he says in the books, like, this positive talk comes naturally to kids. So when you're putting that, giving them that, they pick it up, like, they love it. So, and, you know, and then when you think about someone who grows up in a negative household, they end up on, you know, many times becoming like their parent, or whoever's, you know, raising them, who's giving them that negative talk. They become that, or they become like their parent and treat others that way too. So, you know, it's so true. However, we are being and talking to ourselves and talking to others, that they take it in. Especially kids are sponges, so they just soak everything up that they hear.
Brenda posted on the event page. Let me just read what she wrote real quick. I think my daughter has a great process with our grandkids. When they do something wrong, she asks them, now was that a good choice or was that a bad choice? And then she tells them that all of their choices have consequences and then reaffirms that it's better to make good choices. That is such a powerful thing right there, Brenda. I used to use a real similar kind of a technique with my kids is that, I would never tell them that there was, they made a bad decision or a wrong decision. It was just a decision because we are not the decisions we make. We just are, we are whatever we are, right? But it's not the decisions. One bad decision doesn't make you a bad person, or just because you failed does not make you a failure. We've talked about this before in some other previous books where you don't have to become the mistake that you made. So I think that's a powerful differentiation. Awesome, guys. Anybody else have something on children?
Huge.
I was gonna jump out for a minute if that's okay, unless you want to go, Jason. Oh, I thought you were coming out, Jason.
Dan, just real quick, I was just gonna say I don't know where parents think that kids are going to get all of this good programming if they don't, if they aren't the ones to give it to them. So I think what our last commenter said and everything is fantastic. I'm loving it. Yeah. So, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. No problem. I can honestly, personally attest to this. Personally, the background I grew up in was not the greatest with my real mom and stepdad. But I had one person in my life that was powerful in speaking positive things into my life and telling me that I could do anything, I could be anything, and that was my grandmother. So out of a lot of very negative things, which could have put me in a lot of different things, but my grandmother being the influence in my life that she was, really kept me, looking at myself and valuing myself. And to whereas this day, I know I wasn't the one that was the reason why my real parents were the way they were. It was because of the issues they had. It wasn't me. And so I grew up knowing that, it was them, not me, and the power that my grandmother built into me that, I'm worth it and I am valuable and that, there's something to me that others will see and love for who I am. And so I just wanted to share that.
That's awesome, guys. Let's go ahead and move to the next section. I think we could talk for hours on the importance of self-talk, using positive self-talk with your kids, or, I'm sure we all have lots of examples. And, of course, if we have time, we can go back to those at the end. Okay, so this next section talks about if you want to conquer a problem or overcome an obstacle, and whether it's a big one or a small one, he gives an example in here about a woman who was trying to get a job, but she couldn't make a phone call. She couldn't call around to get an interview, and so he made the suggestion of, just dial that first number. Say, I can dial the first number, and then dial the second number, and then just work from there. Baby steps, right? And you can use self-talk to help get yourself, to just take little baby steps. And so, guys, what do you think about using self-talk to overcome an obstacle or something you're struggling with?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. This example kind of takes me back a long ways back in the mid '70s, and I got involved with Amway back then, and I was so shy and so absolutely petrified of talking to people. And you remember the old rotary dial telephones where you had to put your finger into the hole and and it seemed like it took 5 minutes to dial a phone number, and I'd be dialing the phone number to try to call a prospect to put the moves on them and all that, and the room would start spinning and it would turn black, and I'd think I'm going to pass out, because my heart was beating so hard, and I was like, hyperventilating, and so what I figured out that I could do is I use self-talk, and I mean, sometimes I'd spend like an hour just hyping myself up just so that I could go pick up the telephone and make one phone call, without passing out, literally, and And then when I started, I got into the business, and when I'd go show the plan for people or whatever, and after I did it 5 or 6 times, then it started getting pretty easy. And then I show it to somebody, and they say, "Well, of course you can do it because it's so easy for you." No, you don't understand. You don't know where to come from, And so the people don't understand this stuff. If you don't read these books, or if you've never been around it, if you've never been exposed to it, then you have a tendency to think, well, you just think the way that you think, and why would you think any different? Because this is how I think, But until you're exposed to the thought that you can actually choose a thought and implant it into your mind, and then make that thought real in your life, then how would you even have a clue that you could change or that you could make any difference? And so the self-talk, yeah, like I said, I used to actually literally spend an hour walking back and forth and talking to myself and shouting and screaming and pounding desks with my fist and stomping my feet, using self-talk just to get myself up to the point where I could literally pick up the phone and make one phone call without the room spinning, turning black, and thinking I was going to pass out. So I'll turn it over to someone else.
Anybody else have an example where they had to kind of talk to themselves in a positive way to get, to overcome something or to accomplish something?
I've had to, when it came to doing webinars, that was really scary for me, because I felt that what are they going to think? Is my content and what I'm going to write going to help them? And I just kept talking myself out of doing a webinar. But I finally got the courage to do it. And that was by saying to myself every day, I can do this. And so what I did was I just did one page, like a PowerPoint presentation, just like one page a day. I wasn't going to do the whole presentation, one page a day. And finally all my content came together. And then I went ahead and posted. I didn't say, okay, I'm going to do it this day. What I did was I put it out there that this is the day. So I had no choice but to do that webinar that day. So that's how I overcame it. I did one page a day, and then put it out there to my fans and my followers that this is the day I'm going to do this, and I got it done. And I mean, it's almost like being in this mastermind. The hour goes by so quickly. It's amazing. So it really isn't as bad as we think it is. Because what's the worst thing they can say? They can say no. It doesn't change anything about your surroundings and your environment, your money, it doesn't change anything. The whole purpose for me was to just give out that information, change someone's life, and I did it. And that was it. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think some of us are better we become better at talking ourselves out of doing things rather than talking ourselves into it. I think for me it's been because I just didn't have the language to talk to myself the way I do now with this book and the way they're explaining how to do it. And it just seems like wow, now that I have the ability to change the old habits and then reprogram myself at the basic level, then everything for my daily routine comes from that, and it's all more positive. It's all more just giving me more opportunities, and it really clears the way so that you don't have all that internal argument over whether I can or whether I can't do something. It's just sort of like, okay, this is what needs to be done. Now let me take that first step, that first small step, and get into it, and then see where that leads me. So just like what you're saying, Julia, that's fantastic. Love that. Wow.
And it's also important to remember that the self-talk has to be on a daily basis. It can't be once, whenever something's not going your way. If you have a goal or desire, something that you want to complete, it has to be done every day. Even if it's 2 minutes a day or a minute a day, give yourself that positive talk, because eventually, like Dan said, it's almost like reprogramming your subconscious mind, and it will become natural to you, and it will change how you view things, how you feel about yourself, because you're talking to yourself. And for me, it helped me set boundaries to what I was going to do for myself and what I was going to allow other people to do. So I was able to make better choices and better decisions because I was able to respect myself even more. And one of the ways of doing that is through self-talk and doing it every day, not when something goes wrong. Because when something goes wrong, and for me, I'm going to speak for myself. When I wasn't doing the self-talk every day and something went wrong, I felt terrible. But when I was doing the self-talk and something happened, I dealt with it in a better way, in a better manner. So it has to, do it every day, and you'll see the results.
Yeah, and you touched on something there too. I believe that is crucial. It's how you feel. How we feel does direct our actions, and that's kind of like the end result of our programming and our attitude. And sometimes that attitude, that feeling, comes up like instantaneously, and we may not know where it comes from. And so by doing this self-talk and directing it towards those specific things that we want to accomplish, we're actually arming ourselves for any of the negativity that might come to us. And I think that emotionalizing these words, not just saying these words to ourselves, but actually putting emotion behind them, whatever it might be, happiness, anger, sadness over what it is, gratefulness. I found being grateful is really powerful in getting through negative things and sadness and stuff like that. But even anger for me, I quit smoking back years ago in college, like, when I was in my early 20s. And the way I was able to do it was I was quitting for a long, long time. I never seemed to be able to do it. And eventually, I just got so emotionally angry over not being able to, and being surrounded by people that smoked all the time and opportunities to smoke all the time. And I just got so angry and emotionalized my feelings about it, emotionalized the words about it. And I found that when my feelings of emotion over wanting to quit got bigger than my feelings of wanting to smoke, that's when it became a lot easier for me to quit, and I pretty much quit overnight after that. And so I think emotionalizing, and putting the type of emotion you want behind your self-talk to motivate you, whatever it might be. Some of us come from a place of, some of us can emotionalize and do things out of fear better, or some of us think, oh, geez, I'm going to get so much great reward out of this if I do it, and they can focus on that. For me, for quitting smoking, it was because it was out of anger that I didn't have control over it. I'm like, I'm not allowing this to have control over me anymore, and I pounded that into my brain, so to speak, and that's where I felt a change. And I think that emotionalizing our self-talk is crucial, and I think you hit on that. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. That's such a key point because it is that emotion is what drives us, and if you can change the emotions that you're feeling about something through talking to yourself differently, because that's what happens. I mean, we start getting upset or angry or whatever, and what follows that anger is that negative self-talk, right? And if we can recognize that that's what's happening, then we can start talking to ourselves in a positive way to help us to focus on the positive aspects, and then start to have those positive emotions, which will ultimately drive our actions to get positive results, right? So then the next section, it talks about goals, and this is a real similar to what we were just talking about. Of course, we were talking about overcoming problems or obstacles, and now we're talking about goals, and it can kind of work the exact same way. Is that when you want to achieve something, then you know, just like Julie was talking about, she wanted to do that webinar, right? And if she had kept saying, oh, I can't do it, or I'm not going to be able to do it, or this is too overwhelming, or whatever, that's all negative self-talk that would have talked herself right out of it. Yet she instead said, I can do it. I'll do 1 page a day. I'll create it. I'll just take these baby steps and make it happen, right? So does anybody else have an example to share of how they use self-talk to maybe reach some goals or get the confidence to work on reaching some goals? What do you guys think? Catherine, we haven't heard much from you. I know you fell off there for a second. You want to jump out?
Yeah, sorry, my computer crashed. It just completely shut down. Um, this is probably my least favorite one to talk about. You have to call me out on this one. um, Goals, I probably address goals differently. I don't know. I think self-talk can be a tremendous tool to reach your goals, because if you don't have belief in yourself that you can do it, like you said, then you know you're not going to make it. If you're constantly telling yourself you're not good at something, or you can't understand something, after a while it becomes somewhat of an excuse more than it does anything else, I think, you know, because you get into this habit of telling yourself, like me, I told myself for years and years and years that I suck at math, you know, and that's horrible self-talk. You know, I worked for 20 years as an RN, figuring out calculations on medications given to babies that would fit in my hand, babies that as small as a pound, and I was working in very tiny numbers to get these medication dosages right. So I really don't suck at math, but I told myself that for a long time. I did have to find one formula that worked for all of those calculations, though. So sometimes you may have to find a different way to reach your goal. You know, you might not be able to go after it exactly the way you think. And that goes back to what we started talking about, which is, you know, living it, being there in that place, imagining yourself there and feeling it, like you said, Julia, because otherwise you can't get enough energy behind it. And I think it's great that you use the anger, Jason, because anger is a very powerful emotion, you know, and it does horrible things to the body if you don't let it out, for one thing. So, and it does horrible things to other people when you do let it out, usually, right? So why not find a good way to use that energy, because it's great, powerful energy, but really finding a good way to use it is, like in manifesting your goals, is definitely the way to go about it. I think that self-talk gets me through every day. You know, I mean, I have situations every day that I have to talk myself through, because I'll start heading down one road and then I'm like, oh no, we're not going down that road, we're going down this road, you know. But it takes a conscious choice to do that. And the moments when I want the most to just have the meltdown or whatever, those are the moments that I really have to try the hardest to bring it back, you know. And usually what I do is because I'm an energy worker, so I immediately go to my happy place and I start doing energy work for the world. Basically, that's how I get myself back on track, because otherwise you can get caught in those lower emotions and those lower vibrations and not do as good a self-talk. So.
Oh, we're
Yeah.
running out of time. guys. I really wanted to be able to cover all of the subjects in this chapter, and I don't think an hour is enough time because I think we could talk about all of these in an extended version. Um, but I do want to kind of touch on at least two more, and I know we only have about 10 minutes or less than 10 minutes, but one is on improving your job, and the other one is overcoming depression, because I think these are two things that a lot of people have, strong issues with, or I don't know about everybody, but so let's just take one example of improving your job. So who here has had a job that they were not happy in? Raise your hand. Okay, and so if you think of one thing that you weren't happy about, how could you use self-talk to improve that situation? Who wants to go? We'll just have one person jump out on this one.
I'll hop out. I had a job soon after I graduated from school for acupuncture. I was working in a no-fault clinic, so it was pretty much like a human mill, just people in and out for back pain, neck pain, just for covering their insurance payments for going to court and all that stuff for an accident. And a lot of times the patients didn't even want to be there, and I was miserable there. I hated it because it was like the same points. There was no creativity in the job. It was just like tick, 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 like just this mechanical job, and it was so busy and crazy. And I was like, I got so upset about it. I was miserable. And then I forget what I read. Maybe it was from Louise Hay or something, but I realized I had to change the way I was looking at it and, enjoy my time there, be grateful for it. I was making an income. I was, learning something, whatever it was, even if it was making me miserable. I was learning something I could take down the road and maybe I'd realize later. And once I, talked to myself in a better way about it and tried to just get through the day with, being more appreciative and enjoying the patients and, having genuine conversations with them and making it more fun for myself. Within a couple of weeks, I got a job offer. I forget how it happened. It was very synchronistic, and it was like perfect. It was like amazing. Like this job just came out of nowhere. And so it was like once I got out of that miserable state, another opportunity could come in. When I was so miserable and fighting it so much, nothing was there. It was dry. And once I had better self-talk, it was like things opened up and I got a better job opportunity. So that's my example.
Oh, that's a great example, Sandy. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. I think we all could probably, share a similar situation. So yeah, it's what you focus on, right? So if you're focusing on the negative, then you're going to have more negative, and if you're focusing on the positive, you're going to have more positive. And when you, if you work on focusing on the positive by talking positive about things, that helps redirect your focus, right? Okay, so how about for depression? Who's experienced depression, loneliness, ever feeling down? Anybody? Am I the only one? No, come on. Okay, who wants to share an example of overcoming loneliness, depression, anything like that?
Yeah, I'll jump out. I've shared this example once before, but it was a pivotal point in my life, and I'm sure all of us can point to one moment in time in our lives when there's like a pivot point, where it was like a hinge, so to speak. And this particular day, I used to. It took me a long time to recognize it, but I'm one of them people that needs a certain amount of sunlight every day. And we have something called a temperature inversion here in Boise, where we get a layer of clouds, and there's a ski resort that's a 45-minute drive from Boise, and it'll be warmer up at the ski resort than it is in the city because this layer of clouds holds the smog and just holds the cold down on the valley floor. And then up in the mountains, it's sunshine. It's beautiful, and it took me a long time to figure out that every fall, late in the fall, just coming into like November, I just get down, just get depressed. It's just like, God, what's the use of living, And I had just this mountain of work that I had to get done this one day, and I just stood there for like 2.5 hours, and I just stood there immobilized. And it was just, the sky was gray, and it's just like, life sucks. How did I get to this point in life? Why is it so terrible? And finally I realized that I don't get to go home until I get this done, but I'm immobilized. So what do I need to do? And I did just exactly what this book is talking about. I started talking to myself. And you can kind of like, I mean, if you can imagine, grabbing yourself by the shirt, giving it a twist and get right up in your own face and, giving yourself a slap across the face and say, hey, shake out of this, Bubba, and really, I had to come down really hard on myself and give myself a good talking to. and pretty soon I started on my work, and in a very short time, I was just, singing and getting right through it, but I stood there and I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home so bad. You can't imagine how I didn't want to be there, but I couldn't go home until I got that work done. And I realized that day, I mean, that was a pivotal point in my life that I really realized, and I already knew this stuff prior to that, but I hadn't been practicing it. And so I did. I gave myself a slap across the face verbally and told myself, hey, Bubba, hoist up your britches and, get your head out of your rear end and get to work here, Slick, And I really had to give myself a good hard talking to that day. And I realized that, hey, I can, pull myself out of a depression. I can pull myself out of whatever situation I'm in, but I have to be mindful of that and use the verbal cues and really talk to myself and tell myself what I expect out of myself. Like I said earlier, I grew up with really lazy attitudes, and I figured out if I could whine and cry like a baby long enough, maybe somebody would say, well, I'm just not going to screw around with you. I'll just go do it myself, and then I'd get out of it, But I could get out of this. This was my life. This was my deal, and I had to go make the best of it. So, anyways, I'll let somebody else talk.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. That's a perfect example. Okay, guys, we're right here at the top of the hour, so I just want to give each of you just another chance to just finalize your thoughts for this discussion. I know we talked a lot about a lot of different examples, but if you have final thoughts, go ahead and jump out, and then we'll wrap up after that. Who wants to go first? Just want to keep it short because we're at the top of the hour.
I'd just like to say real quick that if you're having any difficulty with depression, learning how to express and show gratitude, learning how to show and express gratitude goes a really long way, because depression can pull us so quickly into kind of a spiral that where you're depressed, you don't feel like doing anything. And depression to me seems like it's sort of like we're consciously saying, we're consciously deciding we don't want to have any effect on anything anymore because we're just feeling so down. But this self-talk does allow us to, like what Dan did, take responsibility and make the changes, as long as we do like what Sandy said, is focus on something other than what's making us depressed. And I was just wanting to bring up gratitude is something that has really helped me. And Julia, I think you were coming out.
Yes, I'm going to add on to what Jason, you were saying about gratitude. It has been being grateful every day has changed my outlook on life. And it's funny you would mention that, because yesterday I created a Facebook group called the Daily Success Rituals, and the members in the group are committed for the rest of the month of September to write down 3 to 5 things that they are grateful for that day. It can't be something from the previous, it's for that day, and we are to encourage each other and support each other to continue that process. So I just, if anyone wanted to know more about gratitude, and you have your journal, it's in the Facebook group, and just wanted to let you guys know about it. It's just so weird that you mentioned it, because I created it yesterday. I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this because, something, I feel that when something changes your life, and I think you should share it with the world and let them know what's going on, because we can't be the only ones going through struggles. Everyone is. We have an outlet, and we need to let others know that, listen, I have this for you. It might help you. I know how you feel. I went through the same thing too. And this is, this is what I went through. And this is what helped me. So the gratitude journal really helped me a lot. And so I decided to make a group. And next week, you'll see a mind movie. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about mind movies? So I'm working on my mind movie. So that's it.
Cool.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Right on. Very cool.
Anybody else have any final thoughts before we wrap up? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll jump out for a quick second. First of all, I'd like to say today, in listening to a lot of the different viewpoints and the different ways people have used self-talk to help themselves, I just want to say I think in some small form, I think we've all used it to get to some level of something that we wanted to attain or achieve. We just didn't realize we used self-talk sometimes. Maybe we didn't understand the language of it or what it does, but I think there's something inherent in all of us that sometimes when we really want to go after something, we find a way to tell ourselves that we can do it. We may not understand the schematics of it or what it's about. Just the same as also though when we want, when we're going into a downward spiral or something like that, with depression, there are times where we want to go there too, so to speak, kind of, because we're really feeling like the whole world's hitting us and stuff like that. And I feel that it's kind of learning that balance and keeping ourselves speak to the balance so that when we want to go forward, we can go forward, but yet we don't allow ourselves to slip down further than we want to slip down, and also having a good group of people that we can reach out to that can also build into us too. I think that's also another way of having some self-speak, to find somebody that you can resonate with and share those things with too.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Okay, so we're already past the top of the hour, so unless somebody has something else that they really want to add, last chance. Okay. All right, guys. Have an awesome, amazing, and wonderful weekend. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate everybody sharing their thoughts and sharing these examples. I think this is a very powerful video that can then help a lot of people. So be sure, and after this has finished its updating on YouTube or whatever, like the video, share it with anybody who you think could benefit from learning more about self-talk and how to use it in specific situations in their life. And go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Google+, join our community, which is mindsetmasterycollective.com. That's our Google+ community. And with that, have a great day, an awesome weekend, and we'll see you next week right here at SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.